Joining me now, Representative Rick Crawford, Republican of Jonesboro. He represents the 1st Congressional District of Arkansas. Congressman, thank you for being with us, and let's get right to it. You guys are on recess right now. When you come back to Congress in a little over a week, you're going to be facing a potential government shutdown. I've not heard much about plans that might be out there for that. What are you hearing is the possibility of a shutdown? What do you think might be the solution?
Well, I've heard two or three different potential solutions out there. I mean, there's a handful of folks now talking about a year-long CR, and I mean that's really not something we want to do. Yeah, we sort of we avert a shutdown, but when we're doing a CR, a continuing resolution, we're really kind of abdicating our responsibility as Congress and turning it over to the folks down at OMB, and that's the extension of the administration, and they're basically doing the White House's bidding as opposed to Congress spending the money in what we believe is the appropriate fashion. So that's one of the problems. The other thing is it presents challenges with regard to defense spending, and we've got some national security threats that we're dealing with across the globe, and the other issue is border security. I mean, there's a variety of reasons why we need to get these appropriations bills completed. Now, we've done 7 of ours in the House. The Senate has only done 3. We need to do 5 more. And if we can do a short-term CR, which is also being talked again, just to try and by the time to get those those final 5 appropriations bills passed, then that's an option too. And the better option is to go ahead and get appropriations bills completed.
Those senators are a little slow over there, Congressman. You got to give them a little extra time. So, yeah. Well, let's talk about 2 of the other issues you mentioned. One is border security, illegal immigration.
Mm-hmm.
There was a bipartisan agreement brokered by the White House, Senate Democrats, Senate Republicans led by Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma. The House shut that down immediately without even consideration. I know you guys have passed an immigration and a border security bill. How do you see
Mm-hmm.
that impasse finding a compromise to move forward? There were a lot of things to like in that bill for Republicans.
Well, here's the issue and I've been saying this for years, and I'll say it again. I mean, we continue to try to legislate solutions when we already have laws on the books, and we haven't done a comprehensive review of what laws can be applied, how they should be applied, and who should apply them. But what we do know is that the president who says, well, Congress has to give me the authority. Congress didn't need to give him the authority to reverse course when he took office and basically vacate every policy that was in place with regard to things like Remain in Mexico, Title 42, other provisions that the previous administration had implemented to help secure the border. He didn't ask for congressional authority to change those policies. He just did it. Now he's asking for congressional authority. This is all smoke and mirrors. The reality is he has the authority. They already have laws on the books that are sufficient to secure the border. This is a question of political will. Why does he lack the political will to shut down the border? It's not even about money. It's really not even about money. Yeah, you can put more money down there, but if they're not going to enforce the laws that are already on the books, what good does have more money down
So, Congressman, what I hear you saying is that the president already has some of the authority that he needs to do a better job with border security. He doesn't need a new law in the books yet. You guys passed a law and sent that over to the Senate where it's just, in limbo. So I guess I'm
right?
getting mixed messages on if he doesn't need any more legal authority to do some of the things, why did you guys pass a bill and why can't you guys find a compromise with the Senate on this?
Well, that's a good question. There was a lot of us that, yes, voted on it because there are some good policies in there. But again, it's really, I think, extraneous when you think about we don't really know and have a good understanding because we've not done a comprehensive review of the laws that are on the books. But HR2, which you just referenced, it was passed in May of last year. The simple things in that actually did the president to do the kinds of things that we're talking about. Whether or not he needs the additional congressional authority to do it, is an open question. I don't think he does, because if you can undo with executive authority, then it stands to reason you can redo. with executive authority. And so everything that he vacated with regard to border security, he could just as easy reverse course and go back and implement those policies, and we would have a more secure border.
Just 30 seconds for a rebuttal question on that. So are there some things that need to be changed in the law? Do you think that there are some legal things that need to be changed? What would they be?
I am open to changing laws once what the laws are, but piling on seems to be creating more confusion. So let's go to what we know needs to be fixed. What we know that there was authority to do, that we know that he has the authority to redo. For example, Title 42. For example, remain in Mexico. Building the wall was a key component. He had the authority to do those things. Now, here's the other thing. I mean, have the authority to secure the border. How in the world does he have the authority to forgive $137 billion in student loan debt that the Supreme Court said he didn't have the authority to do, and yet he did it anyway? So there are so many duplicitous actions coming out of this White House that it's hard to get a beat on what they're doing from one day to the next.
I hear you. We're not going to have time to get to student loan debt, but I have one last question for you. It deals with foreign aid. Obviously, there is funding that needs to be passed by Congress to provide support to Ukraine, which you have visited, Israel, Taiwan, also in there. But let's focus on Ukraine. How urgent do you think that money is needed, and how quickly do you think Congress will do something when you guys return?
Well, what I'm hearing about what's taking place in Ukraine right now, the stalemate may have been broken in favor of the Russians. And what that does is it sort of puts us in a position of having to now come to terms with the fact that, yes, Ukraine does need help and they need it quickly. The question still remains, why are we not getting a clear, transparent process and accountability for the resources that they've received thus far? And it just needs to be done more transparently, and we need to have greater accountability if we're going to put our taxpayers' hard-earned money. While it's important, and it's very important for us to try to mitigate any stance that he may take with regard to our NATO allies, which basically surround Ukraine, it's also important that we do it in the right way and that we provide some measure of accountability to the folks who have provided that funding. And so I think that's a reasonable approach.
Give me one example of what is lacking in accountability, just so I'll understand because I hear you saying I support aid to Ukraine. I just want more checks and balances on it.
Well, you may have misheard me then, because I do support aid to Ukraine, but not unconditional. I support it. It's not a blank check that, like Biden said, we'll support you under any circumstance until the end. No, that's not a good position to take with Ukraine, because there are some questions about where the money has gone, where the resources have gone, how much actual support do they need? How much ammunition do they have? I've been told that, for every one round that they fire in Ukraine, that the Russians answer with 10 rounds. If that's the case, tell us what it is and tell us what steps you're going to take to make sure that the resources that we provide you, President Zelensky, are managed appropriately so that you can affect a positive outcome for Ukraine. If it's just piling more money, more resources, in fact, we had money going to things that didn't have anything to do with defense. We had money going to Ukrainian farmers. I understand that that's an issue for them, but we got problems here at home with our own ag production. I mean, I just found out that we're now a net food importer, for crying out loud. So our taxpayer dollars to Ukrainian farmers, when American farmers could benefit from it, and at the same time not ask for anything in return. And when I say anything in return, I'm just saying a good faith effort of accountability from the Zelensky administration would go an awful long way to assuage some of the concerns that members like me have.